Hi friend, David here from Learn Stage Lighting, and today I want to take a look at a tool that's not just for lighting, that's newer to the market. So many of you guys know in the past I reviewed the lightShark lighting console and had the opportunity to work with the folks at WorkPro doing various things, including their training videos. Now they have also a lightShark wing that I've had the opportunity to test for a while. I've used it on a few shows, and I've got to tell you, it's a pretty cool unit. So let's talk about the specifics. What is it, and why in the world should you care? At first glance, the lightShark wing looks like any other lighting console wing or anything like that, okay? It's got 10 playback faders. It's then got a pause, go, and select button, but these are customizable. More about that in a minute. And then it's got 2 rows of, what you would generally use as playback buttons. It's got the tablet holder, okay? At first glance, that's what you see. And if you hook it up to a lightShark console via USB, that's exactly what you get. But this hardware does even more, okay? It's got some different functions in it. So, for example, if I grab a USB cable and I hook it up to any lighting console that takes MIDI, or any music production program, or heck, even a photo editor. If it can take MIDI, you can plug this in via USB, get that USB MIDI signal, and now all of these buttons, there's a flash at the bottom, forgot to mention that, but all of these buttons work via MIDI, and I can map them into any program that takes it. So we're talking with the lighting consoles I cover, we're talking LightKey, DMXs, things like that, okay? You can also set it up in OSC mode. When it uses OSC mode, or open sound control, you now have the ability to customize the OSC messages that go on every fader or button. There's pre-built templates, and there's also the ability to completely customize and send your own custom messages out. There's also UDP commands and other stuff that gets really technical, and for those who need that, check it out. Okay? So let's talk about the rest of the physical. The faders, 10 faders, non-motorized. Okay, so when I've used this, I use it just like I would use a MIDI controller with non-motorized faders, or when I don't have MIDI feedback coming back. Meaning that, say I'm using a lighting console or an audio console, I bring this fader up. Okay, I then don't want to control the fader in the software, because if I do, I'm going to have to move this fader to match it up again, or it's going to jump depending on how the particular piece of software handles it. Okay, so when I'm using this for faders via OSC or MIDI, I'm going to control the fader with this. If I touch the fader on screen, I know that they're going to get out of sync, right? On the back side, this is where it gets really interesting. There are a number of ports available. This is where I think this guy really becomes the valuable front of house tool, whether you're a church, a band, DJ, whatever, because at your control position, you now have a device with a lockable power cord, a device that has a desk lamp, 2 DMX 5-pin ports, and those are ArtNet or SACN ports, so any lighting console, doesn't have to be a lightShark, 3 network ports. So this is a gigabit switch, a network switch with 3 ports. Sure, you're not going to change the world on 3 ports, but they're all Ethercons, and it's gigabit. So if you have a couple things at front of house that you need to plug in, you've got a line coming from backstage, boom, you plug that in, you can plug in 2 other devices. Then we've got a USB hub, boom, and power. So it's a really simple unit, but there's a lot under the hood. So let's jump under the hood and take a look at what configuration looks like for the lightShark wing. Alright, so when you first boot up the LS wing, it starts, and I didn't show this here, but it's in the WorkPro videos. You set the mode by hitting the selector buttons on the unit, they flash, it lights up, it's super easy. Then you can go ahead and set up your IP address. So the default out of the box, I believe, is 2.0.0.1, so you set your computer's IP address manually for setup, set it to 2.0.0.2 or whatever you want to do, connect them directly, and then you can set the IP address to whatever you want, which is, whoop, right here, okay? Not only that, you can turn off static IP here just to go over the basics of setup so you understand, like my biggest thing for going over setup here and the basics is Not that this is a full tutorial that walks you through everything about it, but so that you understand, okay, does this fit my needs or not? Or is this something that's for me or for not, right? So there's a lot going on here because they put a lot into this unit. So you can turn off static IP and hit save, and then it's going to get its IP address from DHCP or from a router on your network, okay? So you can do that. For most fixed installations, we do recommend, I recommend either setting a fixed DHCP IP address in your router, so reserving that IP address for this unit, or going ahead and basically just doing a static IP. Okay. There's pros and cons to those. It's best if you can in your router reserve it. It's better to do that if it's a network that's going to have devices getting on and off it. If it's a closed network, then static is fine. So you can name it here. Once you name it, or even before, then you can just go to lswing.local and it's going to pull this page right up. Again, this is only for configuration. So once you're in your show and running or in your service, or you've got this thing set up, you may never have to look at this page again. But they give you a nice page anyways. There we go. And so what we've got here is first we have UDP remote control, OSC remote control, and DMX remote control. So these three are actually, this is kind of crazy. You can actually control the LS Wing buttons or faders from other devices through ArtNet, through OSC, or through UDP. Okay, so that's kind of mind-blowing. And the reason why is because with these buttons or faders, you can put multiple commands to multiple OSC targets, multiple softwares or devices on a single button. And so then you can kind of use this as a bridge, and from an ArtNet lighting console, you could fire a button on the wing, which then fires 2, 3, 4 other commands. Crazy? Probably not what the normal average person's going to need to do, but there's a lot under the hood there. The basic setup is you go to targets here, you set up a target. I've set up a lot of them, so you just add a new one here. You find either the brand and target that you're looking for, or you can go with generic and use the generic OSC. Then once you've added it, I'll just click on an existing one, such as Onyx, because I like Onyx a lot. Then you set up your IP address, you set up your port for the OSC. For a lot of devices, the default's 8,000, but of course, if you're controlling multiple devices, you will want to use different ports for different devices. You can give it a name it whatever you want, or just leave it as the default, and you're good to go. Then we've got the mapping. This is where, if we go and press on a new one, we can press edit. This is where we set up all of our buttons. So we confirm we want to make it active so you're not disrupting an active show. You press here, give it a name. This works on tablets as well as on the computer like I'm on. You've got 2 pages here that you're able to use, and then a number of commands that you can use. So you click a button, you click a fader, you press add. You then have all your choices here, and these are the choices from the targets page, okay? You choose the one you want to use. You choose the command. And then the best part is the test it. So you just move the fader or press the button here, and it actually is sending that OSC command out to the target that you defined here on the targets page. So you can literally have the wing halfway across your venue or in a completely other room and program it fully right here and not have to go over there to press the button to test it, etc. Press OK. You've now got that locked in. You can bring in multiple items. So say then I bring in something for Reaper. I don't know why. There's nothing for faders on Reapers. Say I bring in something for QLab. Nope. Let's just say I just go to generic OSC. I do something new. We give it a command. Boom. Now we've got 2 items. They're in order. We can set a delay between them. So this literally, I could bring this fader up and it would go ahead and fire the one, then fire the other with a delay. Pretty nuts. Okay. Next, we've got the node page. So you can map everything in here. Faders, buttons, everything is individually assignable to what you want to do. Node. This is the ArtNet or SAC in node. Okay. You set the IP address of the node, which can be separate from the IP address of the wing's control. And then you've got a basic node here that does everything you would need. ArtNet or SACN. You see here that they can be independent of each other. So one can be ArtNet, one can be SACN. You set the universe, and you can set the DMX output rate for both ports as well if you would need to do that. Default's 35 Hertz. Boom, then we've got info. This enables you to update libraries, to back up your stuff, to software update, all that good stuff. So that's programming. Last thing is when you do see here on this main screen here, you see here we've got our 3 network ports, and it shows you by color the speed of the connection. So it's got green and orange, I believe, for gigabit versus 10100 Ethernet. Pretty cool. Shows you if something plugged in, shows you the speed. Awesome. Now back to me. All right, so now my opinions and lasting impressions. I use this on a couple gigs with Onyx. Now, as we noted in the configuration, you can hook multiple devices up to this if you're using OSC. You can send out commands to multiple devices. So you could have, for example, some camera switching or audio playback here. Maybe you're controlling QLab. Then maybe you have lighting on a few faders. Maybe you have a few faders of audio. Maybe you've got a video crossfader. If your device talks with OSC, it can be controlled by this wing. And that's the really cool part. This is the first time that I've seen, 1, an OSC piece of hardware, and 2, a piece of OSC hardware, where of course it's the only OSC hardware, but it's the first external controller that I've seen that really is agnostic to consoles, right? I can use this with anything that uses OSC. I can use the DMX ports on the back with anything that use ArtNet or SACN. Okay, you know, the network switch, it's a network switch. It doesn't do anything fancy. Anything that networks, I can use that switch. It plugs in with Ethercon cables. So if I'm on site using a production company's gear, they send me a bunch of Ethercon cables. I don't have to find all those little barrels and jumper cables or take off the barrel. I just plug it in. Okay, and so in this case, it's a really great wing. It works incredibly well. In my testing, I found it to work great. I operate a small closed network, and I didn't have any problem with OSC messages reaching Onyx or any other target that I've sent them to. So, is it for you? Ultimately, I think this is a really cool unit, and price-wise, I think it's a really reasonable deal. If you compare it, you might compare it to other MIDI controllers on the market, and that's not really fair, right? Because this is a higher quality fader than you're going to find on your, dime a dozen music store MIDI controller. Okay, the buttons are a good button, right? The tablet shelf, I forgot to mention that, but it's got the same tablet shelf as the lightShark. So if you can control your programs with the tablet, you can pop it right in there. Okay, and not only is it a high quality MIDI controller or, OSC or whatever you want to do controller, but the added benefit of the USB hub, the network switch. Yes, I know a network switch costs $15, but this one's got Ethercon, right? And it's built in. The DMX ports, okay, it's a 2-port ArtNet or SACN node. That's a couple $100. When you add all that together and put it in a really nice frame, I think you've got a winner. Is it for everybody? Of course not. But if you're looking for some sort of a control situation, a wing for any lighting console, for a mixture of different show control elements, I think that's where this really shines. In an installation perhaps where you've got a few different things you're looking to control across audio, video, and lighting, you can do it all in one unit. And I think that's a win. So check it out. We'll have links below to where to find out more about the LS Wing, and let me know in the comments. Is this something that you would use in your shows? Do you think, because honestly this is not a way we usually think, but can you think of a couple pieces of hardware or a couple pieces of software that you would control all out of one wing? If you would, hey, check it out. Look for more information, and thank you to the guys at WorkPro for sending this to me. Until next time, guys, if you're new with lighting, head over to LearnStageLighting.com and grab my free guide to begin with lighting. It's customized to the type of lighting you do, and if you like this, you'll love the rest of our videos, so be sure to subscribe here, and we'll see you guys on our next video. Thanks.